the introduction of paid residence parking in Discovery Gardens. We've just heard from about 7 or 8 residents on voice notes about some of the pros and cons behind it. If you own an apartment or you rent an apartment, you can get 1 free parking space with that. But if you have a second car, that's where the issue lies. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to pay for that to park in the external parking spaces. According to residents, we're not talking about a small charge here. They're saying it could be up to 10,000 dirhams a year for that space. Some residents are not particularly happy about that, saying it's really unfair to families, with more than 1 vehicle. Some considering selling the vehicle or even considering moving out of the area altogether. But for others, they say they're pleased because for the first time they can reliably find a parking spot when they get home late at night. And in previous weeks they could have never ever done that and would have had to risk parking illegally. So what's driving this shift? Why is paid parking being introduced, especially in residential communities? I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the studio by Pedram Rad. He's CEO at Elevate Architects. They specialise in urban planning, community planning, and as part of that, paid parking is part of the facilities for many of the communities that they design. Hello, Pedram. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Katie. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, welcome. Welcome to Dubai Eye. I know it's your first time. I just want to start by asking, what are the main factors that you think led to Dubai expanding paid parking systems in residential communities like Discovery Gardens?
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. I think we need to look at it from a wider perspective, a macro level, because the city is growing fast and the traffic is really kind of also similarly getting congested everywhere that we are in, and we have a lot of issue here and there. So, however, the planning and also the communities and also authorities are looking at solutions to really kind of reduce that issue in the macro level. So all the communities now have been taking more contribution to reduce the traffic generally in Dubai. As you know, Dubai is a really kind of a city driving by public, not public transport. That's mainly by individual cars, and cars are really kind of around. So therefore, bringing the paid parking, some areas can reduce the amount over number of number of cars on these areas. On the other hand, when you go look at the Discovery Garden at the close eye, for sure many people have perhaps number of cars. However, they have 1-bedroom unit or a studio or 2-bedroom. So that's a little bit excessive for that community. So therefore, the authorities has to come with a solution here to reduce that car parking issue.
Okay. And from your perspective, what specific parking challenges in Discovery Gardens, which is the main focus here, made paid parking a necessary solution there?
I think according to regulation, a 1-bedroom apartment has to have 1 parking, whether it's basement or in surface. However, studio same, and also the 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom might have 1 or 2. What I noticed in some areas, especially Discovery Gardens, people have multiple cars. However, according to their lease or their ownership, they should have only 1 car. So therefore, you create, extensive or additional cars is commuting within the community, which of course creates other problems, other pollutions and other issues for the residents. So bringing reducing that is just one of the factor, one of the mechanism is to have paid parking.
Okay. My thought here is, it's fair enough what they're doing. There's a challenge there in terms of, the number of spaces and the number of cars and the number of residents that have cars per head count in an apartment. But there's no solution for somebody or a family that need to now go down to 1 car. We haven't fully got our metro system working yet.
Right.
Once that's all in place, fair enough, bring in this regulation. But what can people do if they've got a huge financial burden now, but they have to go down to 1 car?
100% agree. I think I believe in this case is a shock. Let's put it that way. When you have something for free for years, and then all of a sudden some sort of financial burden comes to you. So I think from authority perspective, I believe that the rate should reduce, at least to really kind of balance between what they're taking. And the other thing, in the long run, believe that authority will come up with some other solution, some as pedestrian kind of walkway opportunity, scooters and other means of commuting between the communities. I believe those are also coming. As you can see, Dubai in wider perspective is coming with so many of those pedestrianized areas, and also encouraging bicycles and other means of commuting between one place to another. So I think two things need to happen. From residents' perspective, I think they should really kind of look at it in a wider perspective of the city. Perhaps yes, there is a bit of burden, on financial burden on this. On the other side, I believe an authority. I think that they should look at it more on a cost-effective solution and compensation. As an example, if I have a 2-bedroom apartment, then I have to have 2 cars, because that's the regulations. So and if I want to have another car, despite the fact that I have 1-bedroom apartment, then at least the cost should be reasonable, because of the community, because of the people, because of the where people live on that areas, and the cost associated with this.
Okay. Something that me and producer Milani have been trying to work out, the cost per hour, which I think is 6 dirhams.
4 dirhams.
If it's peak times.
Oh yeah, okay.
Regular is 4. If that is the same as parking outside here, which is a prime business area.
Absolutely.
That is not a prime business area. It's a residential area. I don't disagree that they need paid parking, but for me, it just seems the rate is slightly not on the right level.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree, and I think this is perhaps our request as an expert, and of course resident request, to really kind of reconsider the rate, at least to allow the resident to really kind of comfortably to pay for that extra parking, which is another income for government anyway.
You mentioned it briefly earlier, but what role does traffic congestion? I mean, people are saying traffic's the issue. We have the most trusted government in the world, but the thing that they're really, people get really cross about is traffic. Yeah, so what role does traffic congestion and car ownership growth in Dubai play in the decisions to implement paid parking in certain areas across the city?
I mean, as I said, we need to look at the macro level. Dubai is really kind of have the initiative to go through sustainability and net zero and all of the other reducing the carbon footprint in the city. So we need to look at it from the broader perspective. So therefore, cars is, as you know, is another factor to add to pollution generally. So one of the incentive from the government is to also perhaps encourage people to have electric car, and whoever has electric car might have some privilege or subsidized by the government to have better, or either reduced, let's say, car parking rates. And so, but having cars everywhere in the city, and eventually we will have roads and bridges and all of this all around. So it does not necessarily help the city in terms of growing sustainably. It's in terms of growing with the encouragement to pedestrian and to kids friendly, family friendly. I'm sure that you experience in many areas in Dubai, even you cannot walk because of everywhere is roads.
Yeah.
So I think having that limitation or reducing the cars allow the community, allow the space to be for landscape, for parks, for allowing for kids to go out, and allowing for, because I looked at all of the master plans and I see that it's all cars. It's just cars parks everywhere. There's no trees, there is no landscape, there's no space for that. So how do we bring that space, reducing the car, give us additional space to come up with some other compensation which the community benefits eventually. If you have a park somewhere in your, or additional park or some other facility, helps the residents in a long run.
That's what I was going to ask you, actually. Some residents say this is going to add an extra financial burden, but there must be long-term value here of these systems for communities when they're in place, but with the right price point.
Absolutely. I think that's where, initially I think the solution is to reduce the rate. That's for sure. But whatever rate you pay has to come back to the community in some tangible way. But also I must say, Dubai proven this before, and they have done that. And I'm sure that people will see in many highways, they're coming with the pedestrian bridges around the highways. They're coming with more and more of a landscape on highways or also on the communities. So all of this helps the residents to understand that this is not just only a short-term plan, it's a long-term plan. And I think the master developer, in this case, are committed to the wider vision of Dubai.
Okay, Pedram, we're going to have to get you back in because your knowledge is excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you. I
in.
hope that I...
No, it's brilliant. Thank you so much. That was the voice there of Pedram Rad. He is CEO at Elevate Architects that are based here in Dubai. They are, an urban planning company, community planning, that will implement or design communities, with everything from their facilities to paid parking as an alternative.